Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Innovative EdTech. It is lovely to have you here for episode 27. Yes, we are 27 episodes old now. How fantastic is that? Anyway, let's jump into tonight's episode of Innovative EdTech, which is another game changer, another fantastic tool that I am so excited to share with you tonight. So welcome to Teaching Made Easy, exploring the power of Edcafe AI. So we're going to dive in tonight. We're going to introduce you to this probably brand new tool that you may not have heard of. And I'm going to show you around this tool and why it might be something that you'd like to consider adding to your tech toolkit and utilizing in the classroom. So let's dive in, check out what we're going to have a look at tonight, and get this innovative EdTech party started for episode number 27. All right, so tonight, what are we going to have a look at in the next hour? Well, tonight we are going to introduce you to Edcafe AI. It is a brand new tool that's out there on the market, and it has lots of fantastic features. So we're going to help you become familiar with Edcafe AI and why it is a tool that you might consider using in your classroom. We're then going to dive in and explore how we can use and create classroom resources using Edcafe AI. And we're going to have a live demonstration this evening. That's right, it's going to be a live demo episode where we jump over across to Edcafe AI and we have a look at the ins and outs of how you could use this particular program. Then we're just going to explain and just have a quick look at the pricing options of Edcafe. As I mentioned, I always talk to you about, you need to make a decision about whether you're going to make a financial investment in a tool. So we're going to go and present those prices and options for you tonight so that you can start thinking about whether this is a tool that you'd like to add to your tech toolkit. And then we're going to wrap up the episode like normal, just letting you know some of the different ways that you can stay connected with us and continue your learning with the Tristan Heron crew and team. All right, well, let's get into tonight's episode and exploring Edcafe AI. All right, so let's start off with something that we have talked about many times, but I think it's so important to keep reiterating this and just reflecting on the importance of AI and why educators are now turning to AI. All right, AI is a fantastic tool that can be a real great assistant to you in the classroom. All right, it is not there to do your job. It is there to be an assistant to help us make our role as an educator a little bit easier, more efficient, and more effective so that we can spend more time doing the things we love, which is teaching the young people that we have in our classes. So let's go and have a look at why educators are starting to turn to AI, and they're starting to really embrace and incorporate AI into their practices as educators. All right, so we know that teaching is a tough gig. I am still a full-time teacher, so I am still in the classroom. I'm doing the hard yards with you. So I'm not here just sharing and telling you all this stuff without actually understanding what it's like in the classroom. So I know that teaching is tough. Teaching requires us to wear multiple hats, and this can be a little bit challenging at times. It can be a little bit overwhelming when you need to put on your teacher hat, then you need to put on the well-being hat, then you need to put on, the counselor hat or the, I don't know, the referee hat. There are so many different hats that we have to wear that sometimes it can just get to a point where it's a little bit challenging and can feel a little bit overwhelming, especially if you're a younger teacher, you're just beginning in those first maybe 3 to 5 years of being an educator. It can be a little bit challenging. So as educators, we are expected to do a whole suite of things. So let's go and have a look at some of the things that we're expected to do as educators today. So we are expected to plan engaging lessons, all right? Our kids expect it, and we know that attention spans and keeping kids on track is actually much more difficult in 2026 compared to, the past. And our kids require engaging lessons to keep them on track, to keep them interested and motivated. So we know that we are expected to do that. We're also expected to differentiate learning, and I've never seen this differentiation become so, you know, absolutely such a big part of what we're doing in the classroom. And sometimes differentiating your lessons and activities can get a little bit overwhelming if you've got so many different types of students and so many different learning requirements and, just adjustments that need to be made. It can become a little bit overwhelming for any teacher, even me, who's been teaching for 16 years. All right, we're also expected to create assessments. We are told that we need to assess our students. We need to have some kind of data, some kind of information to show what our students can do. We need to do that. Is it always the greatest thing in the world? No, it's not. Do I love assessments? Yes and no. Assessment has a purpose. How we actually assess our students, maybe that's something we could think about a little bit more, but we are expected to do some form of assessment to see that growth and achievement with our students. We're also expected to do things like developing worksheets, developing workbooks, developing some kind of learning resource that our students can use in the classroom, something that might be tangible if we've got it printed, maybe we've got it laminated so that we can reuse it, or maybe it's something digital that we're using on a device like a laptop, a Chromebook, an iPad, a tablet, etc. So we are expected to create these worksheets, workbook resources that we can use in our classrooms. We're also expected to produce presentations. Now, some people might say this is not a requirement. I am definitely an educator that does use a slide deck, a presentation, but I am not an educator there who's just going to put up a huge slabs of text and get my students to copy those notes down. My presentations are more just for that visual so that I can provide a little bit of context, maybe pop up my instructions so that those students who need to refer to them can actually refer to them without necessarily having to ask me continuously. Maybe putting up an example so that my students can see that when they're writing a paragraph or they're looking at what their assessment task could look like. So we do have that need to actually create presentations that we use to support learning in our classrooms. As educators, we are also required to give meaningful feedback. And this is something that is so important, but also can be so time consuming and challenging because if you've got, and I am an English teacher here in Australia, so I teach students English in my classes. So we're looking at literature and we're looking at communicating and all of those different elements that make up the English language. If you've got 30 essays and they may be 3 or 4 pages long, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of time that you have to spend reading those and providing that meaningful feedback. It's just part of our role as an educator to provide that feedback, but feedback and meaningful feedback that students can utilize can actually take a long time to generate and can be quite overwhelming for any educator, even experienced educators like myself. All right, as educators, we are also expected to communicate with parents, and this is something that is just getting so much bigger in 2026. Our parents want more, okay? They want to speak to you more, they want to contact you more. And a lot of this may be quite negative. They may be making complaints. They may be complaining rather than looking at those positives with those parents and that communication. So, it can be difficult as well to find the time to communicate with parents. Plus, and I've got a colleague who really values this and he understands that, most of the parents that we might have from our students, they actually work as well. So they might not be able to take a phone call during a school day. So, being able to communicate with them, being able to manage our time, making sure that we're looking after ourselves as well is also really important. And finally, as educators, we are expected to complete administration. I would, hate to say this, but guys, you have to actually do this stuff. This is not just there for the fun of it. Well, some of it might be there for ridiculous reasons, but we do need to complete this administration. There are reasons behind this, okay? We need to make sure that we are doing things right. We're following our syllabus, our programs, our processes, that we're making sure that we adhere to policies. We're looking at attendance. We're keeping information about records and student achievement. We need to complete admin. Does it take time? Absolutely. Is it fun? Depends. Some people might like admin, but it's also something that can be a little bit kind of crazy if you're not used to the expectations of what admin is in a particular context. So AI isn't about replacing your expertise. Okay, look at all of these different things here that we can actually, or we are actually required to do in our day-to-day roles as educator. All right, so AI is not here to replace what you have up in here, your knowledge, your expertise, your understanding, your guidance, your skills, your examples, all of those things. It's not replacing those. But AI is about helping us reduce that repetitive work. All right. So if we can create a slide deck that we might be able to reuse over and over again with minor adjustments, is going to save you a truckload of time each year. Being able to come up with maybe a prompt that we could use to provide meaningful feedback to our students on their essays is great. All right. And I think sometimes the feedback that I get when I put a piece of students' work through an AI system is far superior than I would ever be able to do on my own under that time constraint of getting, feedback back within a couple of weeks. Being able to create those assessments. There's so many things that AI can assist us with here to reduce that repetitive workload that we are required to complete in our day-to-day roles as educator. So these are some of the reasons why educators are really starting to turn to AI and embrace AI to help us in the classroom. All right, so what is Edcafe AI? This is the guts. This is the whole point of this episode of Innovative EdTech, episode 27, is to explore Edcafe AI. It is a relatively newer tool that's out there on the market, but I think it's one that's got a lot of merit, and I think it's one that if you dive in and you start to experiment and explore with it, you might actually find it's a really great tool that you could incorporate into your classroom. So, what is Edcafe AI? All right, Edcafe AI is an AI powered toolkit designed to help educators effortlessly generate and organize high quality instructional and learning content using AI. Edcafe AI is designed for interactive student-facing learning, where you can turn your sources into materials students might actually enjoy, including things like quizzes, chatbots, slides, and much more. And I'm going to show you all the different things Edcafe can do very, very soon. All right, Edcafe AI also allows educators like you and I to assign these particular activities to our students. We can check and we can see reports. We get that information, that feedback, we get that data so that we can check our students' understanding. But we can also utilize Edcafe AI to give our students feedback. And we can do all of these things in one place. Imagine having a tool where you can assign an interactive activity. You can see different types of reports to check your students' understanding, but also provide feedback. That, to me, is a system that I want to consider using. It's a system that is going to make my life as an educator much, much more efficient. And it's something that I would consider adding to my EdTech toolkit. So Edcafe AI, it's a fantastic AI-powered toolkit that is designed to help you generate those really high-quality instructional and learning materials that your students are going to enjoy and absolutely love. So let's dive into our live demonstration. Tonight, I actually want to get in and show you around what Edcafe looks like. All right. So I don't want to spend, all of this episode talking to you about what we can do and AI and all those kind of things. I actually want to get in and show you, introduce you to Edcafe AI, and then maybe you can make the decision as to whether or not Edcafe AI is a tool that you'd like to investigate and potentially a tool that you'd like to invest in. So what are we going to do over the next, 30 or so minutes? So we're going to head over to Edcafe AI in a moment. I'm going to start off on the home page. We're going to have a look at that. Okay, see, some of those ideas that it's presenting to us so that we can make a decision before we even leave the homepage, whether we want to continue to explore this. Then we're going to go and have a look at how this particular tool it's built for you as an educator, but it's also built to be school ready, right? It's built to be able to be used in class tomorrow with your students. And that's what's fantastic, is that you could actually create something in seconds and utilize it with your students. So this is what we're going to have a look at in this demo tonight. And I've written this down so I do not forget to go through this. So I'm going to go over, we're going to start off by having a look at the home page. Then we're going to head into my Edcafe Edcafe AI. That is a tongue twister. That is a real tongue twister when you are trying to speak to an audience here. So I'm going to head over to Edcafe. I'm going to show you the homepage first. I'm going to log into my account. We're then going to have a look at the interface of the home page where you land when you make it into Edcafe. We're going to have a look at some of the different parts. Then we're going to have a look at some of the different types of activities, assessment, content, and planning that you can create with Edcafe. We're going to create some different types of activities tonight for some different range of things. And if you've seen me before, you know that I am not the best when it comes to thinking about examples on the spot. So this is going to be very funny to see what Tristan can think of on the spot, on the fly tonight. So we're going to create some stuff. We're then going to show you what the activities look like from a student perspective. Now, Edcafe does something really great here where you can actually see these from a student perspective and actually test them out yourself, which is something that I really love, because I love to be able to see what my students see before they actually participate in an activity. And I don't necessarily want to have to launch a session. So to actually be able to see what the students are going to be seeing and how they're going to be interacting with it is a big plus for me. And then we're just going to do a quick wrap up by just showing you some other parts. There is a wonderful library where you can get some pre-made activities that you can complete with your students. We're going to have a look at the submission and analytics assistance areas. So that's a really great way for you to go and check up on your students to see what they've been doing, and also to have a look at the results. There might not be anything in these two particular parts tonight because I haven't got any examples, but that's okay because we can play around and at least we know what we might find in there. But it's going to be really cool to go in and have a look and explore this tool, because I really do think it is something that could be a part of your teacher tech toolkit. As I mentioned, it is still a really new tool. It's a new tool to me, and I haven't had a chance to actually use it with any students in my classes yet, but it is definitely a tool that I am interested in. So, I am giving it a big tick just from playing around with it as an educator, and I am definitely really excited to try it in the classroom as well. So let's head over to Edcafe AI. Let me do these things. So let me just exit from that and pretend like it was just magic. Look at that. Nothing changed there. Beautiful. How good is that? All right, so welcome to Edcafe AI. Now, Edcafe is really simple to find. You can just head over to Google and type in Edcafe, and you're going to be able to find it. Otherwise, just head up here to your address bar, also known as the Omnibox, and you're just going to type in edcafe.ai, edcafe.ai, and you'll end up on this homepage for what I think is actually a really great tool. And, I don't come in here and spruik tools too much, but this one I think is definitely a winner. So as we can see here, beautifully laid out homepage, not too crowded, not too overwhelming, very simplistic, lots of white space so that we have, we're not too overwhelmed but we know exactly what Edcafe is going to offer us. Okay, we've got obviously our different types of tabs along the top there. We're on the homepage now. We'll talk about the pricing later. Obviously, if you are looking at this from a school or district perspective, you can also investigate pricing there. There is the blog there if you'd like to check that out as well. I do have to say that they are very good at sending and sharing lots of ideas with you, and I have signed up to some of those, and I do regularly get emails from Edcafe with lots of wonderful ideas and suggestions, and they do have a great YouTube channel with lots of videos on that as well. So they are really big on making sure that you know how to use this tool and what you can do with it in your classroom. All right, so it tells us here that it is AI made for interactive learning. Now, that is something that I really love. It's about that interactive learning, about using AI to create learning activities that are interactive, engaging, and actually going to capture our students' attention. Are there other tools out there in the marketplace that can do this? Absolutely. But I think it's really good for us to explore different types of tools because, believe it or not, if you haven't experienced it, you probably will eventually, but our students do get fatigued using the same tools over and over again, especially if they're using them in multiple subjects. I'm a high school teacher here in Australia. So if they're using them in history, English, maths, science, geography, and PE, for example, they're probably going to get really sick of the same tool if it's being used over and over again. So I think having some different tools that, create these interactive activities is actually going to be a big win for you to increase that engagement. So just here we can see some of the different things that we can create and we can do with Edcafe. All right, there are quite a few different types of activities, resources, and things that we can create here. All right, if we just continue to scroll down, we can see some of the different people that trust and use Edcafe, which is fantastic. Okay, and then it gives us a little bit of an overview of the process of how we use this. And I'm going to talk to you about how Edcafe works a little bit later. But essentially, you create, assign, the students learn, you can review, and then explore those insights, which is fantastic. So it says here you can turn your ideas into ready-to-use activities. We're going to have a look at those very soon when we dive in. Okay, but you can see here that this particular homepage is really good at just also showing us some of those features without us needing to dive in and actually create an account if you don't want to create an account. So we can actually see some of these in action before we dive in there. And then we've just got a little bit more information here. It's great to see this idea about the tracking, okay, and those insights, which is really a very big part of Edcafe. And then we'll talk about these and, our library and folders and all of these different elements as well very soon. So it is a really great tool that I think one that you might consider using in the classroom. Okay, so let's dive in and jump over to Edcafe. So if you are joining for the first time, you just either come down here to get started now, or you could click the login icon just up here to get started. I've just logged in using my Google account, so nice and simple, but there's a few different options on how to log in there. So I'm just going to come over to this tab and we're just going to head straight into my account. Now, I'm just going to preface this. I think I'm about to sneeze, so if I do just sneeze, be aware of that. I am. Yes, I hope you found that amusing. My students always find it hilarious when I sneeze in class. So I hope you found that absolutely, absolutely hilarious. All right, so I am just going to, before we get started, just preface that I do have a premium account. So I do have a paid account. So if you're just joining on the free plan, you might not have access to everything like I do. So just be aware that if there's something that you don't have in your account, if you're signing up to test out for free, that could be why. So just be aware of that. I don't want you thinking that I have done you wrong and I have lied to you. It just might be because I have the premium account. All right, so when you head into Edcafe, this is where you end up. Now, it looks really simple, but don't be deceived by this, okay? Don't be deceived because all the good stuff happens in places that you might not realize. So we end up on this page here. Over here on the left-hand side, we've just got a few menu items. We are going to go through and have a look at these during this demo. But just here is where we end up in our library, okay? Essentially, this is where all of your creations are going to be found. And what I really like about this is your library is the first thing you can access, not all of the different tools that you might be able to use in Edcafe. The very first thing is our library, okay? And I really like this. So you can see here that I've got a couple of example things that I've been playing around with here. So I'll show you some of these in a moment when we do some, when we play around with this. Another really great thing here is that we can create folders, which is fantastic if you need to keep things organized. So you could create some folders. So let's create some now. You can choose some different colors. Not a great range of colors there, but that's okay. So we can create some folders and we can create activities directly within those folders, which is really cool there. So I might just come back here and we'll just pop we'll pop some more folders in here just to just for the effect of tonight's demo. Let's go here. Let's go science, which I think science is green. So let's do that. All right. So we've got some folders there. So you can create your folders, which is fantastic. And that's where you can then also directly start to create some of those activities. And you can actually create folders within folders. That's pretty good. So maybe let's go here. Year 7 science. Okay, or how cool is that? So if you are teaching science and then you've got year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you can create activities within that folder. That's, oh my gosh, you can create a folder within a folder within a folder. I think you could probably keep going on. You know those mirrors you see sometimes when you're in an elevator and it just goes on and on and on? I think that's probably what it's going to be like here. So let's head back to our library because we don't need to just continue to make folders and folders and folders because that would be absolutely ridiculous. Tristan. All right, so the very first thing is our library, okay? And you can see that you've got some of those different activities that you've created, those recent files, okay? And we can pop these here. I'm going to say if we click on our 3 dots, and whenever we see 3 dots, it always means there's more options. And yes, there are absolutely more options here. So we've got our different kind of activities. We can assign them. We can review reports. We can export them, which is great. So you can export these to a range of different Microsoft and Google tools. We can edit, share, but this is the one that I want to have a look at, which is move. So we can move these if we forget to pop them into folders, which is great. We can clone these. All right, so if they may be using them, you know, year after year, but we're changing them slightly, we don't have to start it again. So we can clone those and we can check our visibility. So you'll see that visibility shortly when we go through and actually start doing some demos. But let's just move one of these. So let's move this one just randomly to our English folder. Oh, how easy is that? I like things that are simple, 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 simple. So that is our library. That is your space where you create your activities using Edcafe AI. All right. Okay, let's come over here to the fun part now. Let me just triple check. Okay, I've shown you that. All right, yep, let's come over here and we're going to click on this beautiful green button just up here in the top left-hand corner. And let's get started with having a look at some of the things that we can create using Edcafe AI. Now, they have very nicely kind of divided this up into 2 sections at the time of this particular recording. We've got our activities and assessments, and these particular parts of Edcafe AI relate to those. Then we also have some of those different types of activities that help us with our content and planning. All right. So if you're looking for something specific, we've got them broken up here, which is fantastic. Okay, so with our activities and assessments, we can introduce chatbots, we can create quizzes, we can pop in YouTube videos and create some quizzes, flashcards, reading activities. We can have an assignment grader, which is really cool. All right, so 6 very useful tools just there that you could really use in your classroom. Then down here, we can also create some slides. We can explore some teaching resources, some summary notes. We could create a lesson plan, AI speech, or an AI image. So there's lots that you can do with Edcafe AI. So it's not just a one-trick pony. There's lots here that could be very beneficial for you. All right, so let's get started and maybe we'll come up here. Let's start off with a quiz. Let's maybe start off with a quiz. Now, what I really also do love, and I think if you have been counting how many times I've said I do love tonight, I don't know what we'll be up to, but you're not getting anything for it. So just, whatever. I do love that with Edcafe AI, though, is that you can actually utilize a number of different types of inputs, essentially. With some of the AI tools, you either have to use, text, a web page, a file, and you can't use multiple kind of components to help you generate your particular activities. But with Edcafe, you can actually utilize multiple components just here. So you could put some information about your topic in here. Maybe you've got a text that you've created, maybe with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or something, and you could pop that in there. You might make reference to a web page, or you might upload some kind of file just here. Okay, so you actually can utilize multiple sources to help create the activity. Okay, our question type here, we're going to come back to this in a moment. Our question type here, we can have multiple choice, short answer, or mixed, which is fantastic. So you can decide what type of questions you are looking for. You can decide on the number of questions. Okay, it can just be automatic based on how much content is available from your input. 5, 10, 15, 20, 30. All right, I think 30 questions would be absolutely enough, especially if you're just doing a little bit of assessment. So that would be perfectly fine. You can pop in any additional information here. So you can pop in things like student year level. You can apply it to standards or outcomes, or you can provide specific instructions just here. So you can really, and we talked about that academic rigor earlier. We can really make sure that we increase and we look at what we want this particular output to generate. So you have a lot of control just here, and we can change our language. So I'm going to start off with one here. How about we go, let's just start off with something primary school. Let's just talk about generate a quiz exploring common, let's go 3D shapes. Okay. All right, let's just do 3D shapes. Let's do multiple choice. And I'm going to say this, let's go, this is for a year 3 class in Australia. Oops. And it is a revision activity. Okay. Simple, dimple. No, nothing complicated there. So this is what I love here. I'm just going to literally click generate quiz and see what it creates. Okay. Obviously, just like any tool, you can come back and you can have a look at these, and you can adjust and you can change these. So here we have our questions, our multiple choice questions. All right. It's given us our question. It does give us this explanation, which I really love. And that is what the students see when they jump into this. So you can have a look. Again, we've got our 3 dots. We can add images, which is fantastic. So maybe you'd like to add a, I don't know what that was there. I don't know if we'll get anything. Yep, I don't know. That definitely is not a sphere. So that's hilarious. But we could pop an image in there, which I think is really great to support our different types of learners. So we've got the questions there. We've got the explanations. Looks pretty good to me. Okay, obviously we can come in here and believe it or not, this is all customizable, and you can actually come in here and fix up any spelling errors that you might find or anything grammatically wrong based on your particular context, which I think is really great as well. So you can see here that we can edit this. All right, it is all editable, which is great. Okay, we can also add additional questions, but I think that looks pretty good for a starting quiz. So what we do when we're happy with our quiz, okay, and again, I'll just come up here because I keep forgetting to show you this. And I kept forgetting to look at this when I was, playing around with it. This is where we can provide some instructions for our students. So this is where you can say, this is a revision quiz to check, oh my gosh, check your understanding of common 3D shapes. Okay, and again, we can come here, we can change it. We can make it bold. We can make it pretty. We can do whatever we like. When the activity is ready, we just come up here to the lime green save button. We give it a name. So I'm going to say common 3D shapes revision activity. Oops, too many I's. Activity. We can pop it straight into our library. So I'm going to pop that straight into maths. We can decide on our visibility. Do we want this particular activity to be accessible by other people in the Edcafe public library, or do we want it to be private? So I'm going to leave this one private because it's just a demo today. And I don't want someone going in there and going, what kind of loser created this and it's not even finished? That would be me because it's only for a demo. So now I'm going to press save. And then you will see this is the window that is generated where we can now take this tool, this particular interactive activity, and we can now use that with our students. So you can see here, if we scroll down, we've just got all of the questions and the quiz, okay? But this is where the fun stuff can happen. So we can assign it just by clicking on the lime green assign button just here. We can view our reports. Again, we can export. We can go back and edit if we find any last minute mistakes. We can share this as well. Okay, so if you want to share this particular link to this activity, we can do that as well. And obviously our 9 dots, there's only 3 dots there, you dingbat. It also gives us those same kind of settings that we looked at earlier. So let's click on the lime green assign button here. And this is where we can dive in and we can start assigning this particular activity to our students. So we can share this QR code. We can share a link, okay, which will be copied to your clipboard. We can embed this, okay, if you've got a particular resource that you're using, a learning management system, you can embed this. I do love this though. I love the ability to share this on Google Classroom, on Microsoft Teams. All right. If you've been with me, you know that I hate kind of multiple processes for something. So if we can share it onto Google Classroom, all I have to tell my students to do is go to Google Classroom, find this particular assignment, and then they will be able to log in with their Google accounts that way, which to me just makes your life so much easier. We've got a couple of different quiz modes here. So we've got classic, okay, which is just a form-based quiz with a summary at the end. We've got practice, which provides instant feedback after each question, or assessment, which is just one question at a time. So if you're looking to utilize this for some kind of assessment, that could be really great as well. We can shuffle questions, we can set time limits, and then when we're ready, we just copy the link and we can get started if we're using the link. But this is something else I really love here, which is the ability to preview your activities. And you can preview them from all 3 different modes that you could actually share with your students. So let's just start off with practice view here. Okay, so we can go through and we can I'll just randomly choose these. So do not judge me for just choosing things and probably getting lots of them wrong because I didn't want to take ages. All right, submit the quiz. And then here we go. What I do love is it gives us this kind of personalized little comment here, okay? And you can see that I got 7 wrong and I got 3 correct. At least I got 3 correct. I've got 30% correct. That's not too bad. But you can see that it provides students with this explanation. And again, you can go in there and you can actually edit that explanation if you want to. So if there's a specific language that you need to use, you can edit that so your students get that explanation when they complete that activity. So how cool is that? That's pretty simple and didn't take us a lot of time. All right, let's have a quick look at the practice mode here. So basically this time it provides us with instant feedback after each question. So 6 square faces, 12 edges, and, did I get it right? I did get it correct, thank goodness. Okay, but can you see here that now it's giving us the correct answer and it's providing us with an explanation there. So let's just choose one. I want to choose one and answer it. Oh, Tristan, I want to answer it wrong. Stop reading the questions. Okay, here we go. Oops, it wasn't Britney Spears. She didn't do it again. But you can see here that it actually tells us why the answer was incorrect and gives us the correct answer. So I think that is pretty handy dandy and a really great way to help your students starting to develop their skills and understanding and knowledge in a particular area. We also have the assessment here, and obviously this is just one question at a time with all feedback at the end. Okay, so we won't do the whole thing here because it'll take forever. But as I mentioned, what I really love here is that we can dive in and we can actually start to explore what these activities look like for our students. That's one big thing that I absolutely love here. All right, let's head back to the create new, and maybe we come in here and let's have a look at some flashcards. All right, really great if you're looking at vocab and language, and or maybe you're looking at, I'm an English teacher, so maybe we're looking at something like film techniques or language techniques. Okay, maybe you're looking at some language in, you're doing a glossary in geography or history or science, or there's so many ways that you could use these flashcards. Maybe you've got some senior students who are practicing for their exams. This is another really great tool here. So again, we can pop in our topic. Okay, we can choose from a template. We've got different types of templates, and we can customize this if we like. So what's going to be on the front, what's going to be on the back, which is fantastic. So lots of things here, even a true, false, fill in the blanks, so many options. This is what I mean. All right, it looks like one tool creates some flashcards, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with the custom option to create some different things that you could use in the classroom. So maybe we come here, I'm just going to say here, create a series of flashcards about, we'll just do what it says here, the solar system. And I'll spell system solar correct, because that would be hilarious. I'm just going to make this pretty generic. I'm going to go term and definition. Again, you can change this here, what you want to be displayed. All right, you can see that we can change all this. Okay, let's just leave all this. Let's just generate these just so I can demo these to you, because I don't want to take up all night just on one activity. Okay, here we go. All right, here is what it looks like. They are our terms just over here in the left-hand column. In the right-hand column is the definitions. All right, beautiful. Okay, all right, up the top here, we can choose a voice. Okay, if we'd like to use a voice to help our students understand these. Oh, we've got some Australian voices here. I don't know whether you'll hear these ones. We did have they're hilarious. I don't know whether you heard that, but that's absolutely hilarious. All right, again, let's save that. Let's just do solar system vocab. Let's just pop that into science. Let's not make that public because I don't want some person to find this and not actually make any sense. Okay, so let's dive in here. We've seen this before. It's the same layout. Let's assign this. Okay, beautiful. All right, here we go. Let's copy the link this time and go to another tab. Paste this link in here. Here we go. All right. So we can shuffle the cards, we can autoplay sounds, we can do flip mode, matching mode. So your students get a little bit of choice just here. All right, they can see the cards just there. Let's put my name in there. All right, so solar system. Again, we can listen to these and we can flip them. And then we can get our students to decide, did they get that particular definition or term correct? Are they still learning? Or did they know that? Okay, so how cool is that? Really fun, exciting, doing something a little bit different. And that literally took us seconds to create. All right, that's the benefit of Edcafe, is it's so simple and so quick. You'll also notice here that we can also, we also have the power to turn on and off submissions. So if you want to stop accepting submissions at a certain time, that might be a really great thing to do as well. So you can also control that submission and access to these tools. All right, let's have a quick look at maybe this reading activity, and then we'll go and have a very quick look at some of the other teacher and planning activities that are available. So let's come here, and I don't know if I have... I don't know if I have. I'm just going to come over here to ChatGPT, and I'm just going to get it to create a short story about a winter's day in Australia. So I'm just going to get a little short story. I haven't given ChatGPT much information here. I'm just going to grab this little short story. Okay, you could go and get ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Magic School or something else to create a little kind of story here. And I'm just going to say my instructions are going to be create a reading activity for a year 5 class. I'm going to say actually year 5 mixed ability class, include at least one question for extension students. All right, let's have a look and see what this does here. All right, let's generate a reading activity. I'm really curious to see what it does here. Okay, so there's our text that it is created. All right, here are 4 comprehension questions. Okay, and we've got some language tasks here and an extension task here. All right, so we actually have 7 questions. 7 questions. Yeah, we do have 7 questions. All right, which is fantastic. And again, we can come in here and we can edit these. So maybe I want to move these because I want to space them out a little bit more so that it's easier for my students to be able to see these. All right, we can do that there. All right, again, we can come in here, we can change all of this, we can bold, we can underline, we can add images, we can do all that stuff. Let's save this. Let's go winter's day. All right, let's just save this in English. All right, again, we can pop in more details there with the description, but let's assign this. Let's copy that link. Let's head over here. Let's have a look and see what this looks like. Okay, so here it is. There's our text there. Okay. All right. So with this particular activity, it doesn't look like we can actually complete this in Edcafe, but we can copy that passage. Okay, and we could pop that into something like a Google Doc where we could get our students to use that. So we could also pop that into something like a Google form and get our students to actually complete this using a Google form there. So the reading activity here is a little bit different. Okay, that we can't actually seem to get our students to answer it with responses in Edcafe. I might be entirely wrong with student responses. Let's try this one. Let's see if this makes it a little bit different. No. Okay, so that's really interesting. All right, this is what I love about these sessions is I love learning and exploring with you because, you know, not every single part of every single tool is applicable to my particular role and what I do with my classes. So sometimes I don't actually see or know these things until I am experimenting and showing them to you as well. So just because I'm here talking about these things doesn't mean that they are necessarily things that I am directly using with my classes within my context, etc. All right, let's head back here to the create new and let's create some content and planning items. Let's create a slide deck. So maybe let's go back to the solar system one because we've already been looking at that one tonight. So create a 10 slide deck to introduce the solar system to your year 6 class. Okay, again, you can pop in your any more instructions, number of slides. So I have said 10, so I'm going to change that. We can choose a theme here if we would like. Let's just go, we'll go comic, and then we'll generate our slide deck. Now, I'm pretty sure, just like everything else I've shown you tonight, that this will be fully customizable as well. So here's the slide deck being generated, which is fantastic. Okay, let it do its thing. Give it a few seconds. All right, and I'm pretty sure if we come back here, yep, so it's popped in some images there to each slide. And again, everything here is customizable, okay? So we can go in here, we can change these images, all right? We can go in here and we can change pretty much all of the text we can change this here. Okay, so we can add additional slides. So if you're looking for something really quickly to get you started with, or maybe you're looking for something to be able to create a lesson or an activity and a resource bank for teachers that might be absent, so your colleagues might be absent, you might be able to create some using Edcafe right here that your teachers can quickly add to their lessons. And your colleagues, those people, those casual relief teachers who are taking the classes might be able to jump in and use those. So, there's an idea there. So let's just do, I'm just going to call this casual lesson number 1. We won't make it public. Let's have a look and see what this looks like. So assign it, copy that, come over here, new tab, paste that. Okay, there we go. Beautiful. So this could be a really cool way to create a resource bank of activities that you can quickly pull up if your colleagues are away or you need something really quickly that you could work through. So how do I move the slide? Oh, here we go. So I've got to move it down here. Yeah, so I can see that being a really handy tool that you could use in the classroom. If you're looking for something really quick, a nice resource bank of wonderful lessons that you could create that you only have to share that particular link, which is great. You don't have to have any logins. Yeah, that could be a really nice way to help reduce that planning and anxiety if you've got colleagues away. Okay, the teaching resources section here. Okay, this is where you can find online and different types of teaching resources. So let's just go here. Let's just go to the solar system again. It's a theme tonight, the solar system. All right, we can look for articles, slide decks, videos, worksheets. It'll go through the interweb and start to find resources that you might be able to use. So give it a few moments to do its thing. And hopefully it might bring up something that you can access or that might be really useful. All right. So it's actually, what I am loving here is it's actually popping them into those different categories. So we've got articles, slide decks, videos, and worksheets. So they're not just one big stream. It's really over, stimulating and complicated. It's actually dividing it up there. So we've got 5 articles, 5 slide decks, 5 videos, and worksheets as well. That's pretty cool if you're looking for some resources on the fly. I'm just going to discard that. Okay, again, we can create a lesson plan here. All right, so pop in what you would like the lesson plan to look like. So I'm just going to say create an introductory lesson plan about the solar system. Include an engaging hook, and inquiry question. Okay, let's have a look here. Let's see what it does. Excuse me. Okay, and again, this was very simple. All right, you could be much more detailed than I am, but obviously just to get this and just to show you this really quickly. Okay, look at that. There we go. So it's generated a lesson plan. Again, we can pop in there. We can edit that lesson plan. We can copy that lesson plan. We can see if it's right. We can see if it's relevant for our context, for our system, for our school, wherever we are teaching. But there's so many things that you can create using Edcafe AI, right? I think it is definitely a tool that, it should be something that might be part of your teacher tech toolkit. All right, so we only had a quick look at a couple of those things because I didn't want to take up all night. But very quickly, let's go and check out these couple of other wonderful sections over here. So in My Library, this is obviously where you are going to find your library of resources that you have created. Okay, you can search your library just here as well. All right, so that is very handy. When we come down here to submissions, this is where we'll find data and information about any submissions that have been generated using your particular tools. All right, so this is where you will find those. Okay, there's nothing in here because we haven't used it yet. Okay, we've got our analytics assistant, so we can create this assistant chatbot just here. Okay, so it can help us look at those different reports and generate some different things that we might be able to use in our classrooms when it comes to this. Okay, so that is also pretty handy as well. Okay, if we head just into our account here, this is just the back end. All right, I'm going to talk to you about pricing in a moment. Okay, your settings, pretty basic stuff there. Okay, so you've got access to all of that as well. I'm just going to come back here to, where am I going to come back to? Because where did I find this the other day? Now, I found something, and I can't remember for the life of me where I found it. Where did I find it? I'll probably remember this at some stage. But there are some pre-created ones that I did find somewhere, and I can't remember where I found them. Isn't that hilarious? That when you're trying to do a demo and you are just I can't remember where I found them. I'm just gonna. I know I found some, but I can't remember. Oh, they're mine. No, I can't remember. I'm going to admit this. I cannot remember where I found them, but I think I did see some pre-created ones somewhere in here. If I find them and figure them out, I will tell you about them. But for the love of me, it's fallen out of my brain hole tonight. So that is Edcafe AI. I think it is a tool that is going to be very beneficial for you. It looks really simple. It doesn't look like there's heaps there, but there's so many things that you could do, and you could see that we could do most of these in mere moments, in absolute seconds. And the great thing is that it doesn't require student logins. It might require your students to put in their actual names so that you can, check that data and information. But it's a really simple tool that you could use in your classroom today. All right. And already tonight, I've thought of a really great resource bank of things that I might create with some different kinds of activities that casual or relief teachers could use with my classes if I was away. So even now, I'm already thinking of things that I could do with Edcafe AI. All right, so that's Edcafe AI. I think it's a great tool that you could use in the classroom, and I think it's something that would be really beneficial to look at and see if it might become part of your EdTech toolkit. All right, now I know I'm probably going to go over time tonight because I do love to talk, but why does Edcafe AI stand out? Why is it a tool that you might like to investigate? So we've had a look at it tonight. We've had a look at a whole range of different reasons, and I hope I've given you a little bit of an introduction as to why this is one of those tools that you should consider adding to your EdTech toolkit. All right, I think it's something that would be beneficial. But let's go and have a look at 7 reasons why Edcafe AI actually stands out compared to other generic generative AI platforms. There's lots out there, but these are some of the reasons why Edcafe stands out. All right, we have that interactive, student-friendly content creation. All right, fantastic. Quizzes, flashcards, chatbots. We have so many different things that we can use and get to create so that our students are they're engaging interactively and they are loving every minute of their learning experience. All right, we can also utilize those multiple input sources. We can include text, files, URLs, all right, which is fantastic. A lot of other tools don't really like you using more than one, but you can use multiple input sources when it comes to Edcafe AI. All right, we can also add those additional instructions. All right, so you can steer that level, that format, that rigor when it comes to what you want Edcafe AI to generate with the activities for your students. All right, if you've got a lower ability class, tell it that you have a lower ability class. If you have students that are only reaching this particular level, tell it that. All right, if you're looking for more higher level questions or activities for your students who might be gifted or talented, tell Edcafe AI that so that it can actually create resources that are going to be suitable for your particular context. All right, you can also save your resources in the built-in library. Which keeps things organized, all right? It says built-in library there, so you can tell there's a spelling mistake there. All right, so there's that built-in library there, which is fantastic to keep things organized. Okay, it is very easy to assign those activities through direct links, QR codes, or integrations with different tools such as Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. A big plus for me. Okay, it is easy to provide grading and feedback, and we saw that in that first activity that I showed you about 3D shapes. So that's really great. You can actually provide that instant feedback to your students so that they can continue to learn and grow and excel moving forward. And obviously you have access to that data and those analytics to help guide your teaching and learning process moving forward. And finally, the really great thing here is if you're coming from a particular school context where you need to ensure the the resources that you're using are compliant. Okay, so Edcafe AI is SOC 2, GDPR, FERPA, COPPA. It's compliant with all of these different particular processes and policies and things that exist around the world. So if you want to check that out, you can also go and check it out on the Edcafe AI website if you want to triple check those, but it is compliant with all of these different elements so that you can use it within your school context. So they're just 7 reasons why Edcafe AI stands out and why you might consider using it and incorporating it in to your EdTech Teacher Toolkit. Okay, we're going to wrap it up really quickly here because we're going to just be over time, but let's have a look at the Edcafe AI plans and pricing options. All right, so at the moment, and this is August 2026, these are the pricing options that are available for Edcafe AI. Now, these were based on my context, and I am based down here in Australia. So please note that they may be different in your region depending on where you are located. So please just head to the Edcafe AI website to check out the pricing options to make sure that you know what's going on essentially. These are obviously individual pricing options. We did see earlier that they do have obviously school and district and bigger type of options that are available, and you can go and check those out and inquire about those through Edcafe AI a little bit more. All right, so there are 3 different options here. There is the free plan, which is great if you want to just get started with it. It doesn't have access to everything, but it does provide you with a starting point if you want to go and test it out and just see what you can do with it. There is the pro plan, which is great for small to medium-sized classes. So if you don't need a huge amount of access, the pro plan might be perfect for you. So it is $7.99 per month. It is billed annually though, so it's not a month-to-month type one here. So please just be aware of that. And the final one here is your premium. So if you've got larger classes or you're looking at schools and districts and things like that, the premium option is $14.99 per month, billed annually. And you can see obviously the number of things that you get included in obviously the pro and the premium plan increase exponentially as you move up those pricing tiers. So if you want to find out more about this, I highly suggest you get started with the free plan, see if it's something that you might be able to use and incorporate into your own context. And if it is a tool that you will use regularly and consistently, you might like to financially invest in it. All right. But don't invest in every tool or any tool if it's not something that you're going to use consistently and you're actually going to get bang for your buck for. All right. Because you work hard as a teacher, and I want you to make sure that you are spending any money that you need to spend on your students, but you're spending it in a way that is really wise and that's a good investment. So that's the plans and pricing options from August 2026. So go and check them out and see if this is a tool that you might like to invest in. All right, let's wrap up tonight's episode with some key takeaways. All right, so tonight we've really tried to emphasize that AI should support the great things that you're doing in the classroom. All right, it is not there to replace you. Your expertise, your professional judgment, it still remains the most valuable part of the learning process. So you can see that every single thing, and that's why I love Edcafe AI here, is that you can go in there and you can edit and adjust and change every single part of what is generated in Edcafe AI. All right, that professional judgment is still there. That expertise that you can incorporate and embed is still there for you, which is fantastic. All right, Edcafe AI also goes beyond just generating text, okay? We've seen that. We can see that it is creating student-ready, dynamic, interactive content for any classroom, okay? We have the options there to add images. We can change things. We can edit things. We can really turn this into a valuable, dynamic, student-ready, interactive resource very quickly. It gives us a starting point, all right? So it doesn't give you any excuses not to try something different in the classroom now, because with Edcafe AI, you can do this in seconds. All right, you can start with, I suggest that you start with just one practical task. So choose a single feature that solves a genuine problem, before you go and, put that toe into the pool of Edcafe AI, go and test the water first. See what it's like before you jump in and you cover yourself completely with that water. Okay. So maybe you just use a quiz just to do a pre and post assessment. Maybe you are going to use the slide deck creation to create some lessons that you could use for casual or relief teachers. Start with something that solves a problem, work on that, perfect that before you move on to something else. Don't go in there and try everything and become overwhelmed, because that's not going to help you out either. And finally, think of Edcafe AI as your full teaching cycle. All right. So it is there to help you plan, create, save, assign, and assess. All right. We talked about this earlier. I alluded to this when we looked at the homepage of Edcafe. All right. We can, we've got all of these different components of the teaching cycle there. All right. It is helping us plan. That is where we pop in our instructions, our input. It is creating for us. We save and then we assign that particular learning resource to our students, and then we assess them with the information that is provided to us through that particular activity. So it is your all-in-one full teaching cycle that is going to make your life so much easier as an educator. So there are just 4 key takeaways that I hope you have absorbed and you have identified from tonight's episode. Edcafe AI is a fantastic tool. It's definitely a tool that I am going to try in my classrooms. Okay, I just need to find the right time and space. But it is something that I'm going to test out because I think it has a lot of potential, and I think it's going to continue to grow and get bigger and better. And it's going to be something that is well worth the investment and also well worth having a place in your EdTech toolkit. All right. That brings us to the end. But before we go, I do want to remind you that AI is not going to replace great teachers. All right. But great teachers who know how to use AI will have more time to do what they do best. All right. You will have more time to create engaging, interactive, relevant, learning experiences that our students are going to remember when they're 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. They're going to be telling children. They're going to be telling grandchildren. All right. So don't think that AI is going to replace you. It is here to help you do what you do, which is teach our students, guide them, and set them up for some fantastic futures. There we go. That brings us to the end of episode 27 of Innovative EdTech, Teaching Made Easy, exploring the power of Edcafe AI. As I've said tonight, I think it's a great tool. I think it's one that you should look at incorporating into your EdTech toolkit. There are so many benefits for this tool, and I think it's definitely found a spot in the marketplace that is going to be highly sought after, and it is going to be something that you are absolutely going to love. So go and check out Edcafe AI, see what you can do with it, and see why it might become one of your new teaching tool best friends. All right, before we wrap up, we do just want to let you know we'd love for you to stay connected with us here at Tristan Heron. So you can check us out at tristanheron.com. That's where you can go if you want to know anything about us. You want to check out our upcoming workshops. You want to check out our digital templates. You want to check out the basically everything. That's where you'll find it, tristanheron.com. All right, if you haven't done so already, we'd love it if you headed over to the Tristan Heron YouTube channel. We'd love to reach 1,000 subscribers. So if you want to head over and subscribe to our channel, that would make me so happy. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up as well. Like our other videos so other educators start to find our content so we can support you with EdTech in the classroom. All right, we also on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So you can come and join us there. And you can also contact us via email if you'd like to know anything else. If you want to keep learning with us, we'd love to continue learning with you. And we'd love to invite you to come and join us at the Empowered Educator Hub. This is the ultimate teacher and educator resource for learning how to use, teach, and master EdTech confidently. So this is our membership academy. We are here. You get so much for your monthly membership. In fact, I did actually ask Claude last night about the price, and it said that it is greatly undervalued and I should actually be charging more. So if I were you, I would be coming and having a look at this now, just in case I decide one day to put the price up. So if you want to know more about the Empowered Educator Hub, just head over to tristanheron.com/hub. You can explore the 8 different components of the Empowered Educator Hub framework. You can check out some of the things that are already in the hub. Last time I looked, I think there is about 70 plus courses, resources, PDFs, AI prompt packs, all different kinds of things that are already in there for you. So if you're interested in joining us in our Empowered Educator Hub Membership Academy, tristanheron.com/hub. If you want to check out any of our previous Innovative EdTech episodes, we have 26 other episodes. They are available over on the Tristan Heron YouTube channel. So just head over to the Innovative EdTech playlist to check those out and see what some of the other fantastic tools are that we have shared in the previous 26 episodes. Anyway, that brings us to the end. We're only 10 minutes over time, which I don't think is too bad. You know me, I do love to chat. I hope you've had a great night. I hope you've taken away something about Edcafe AI. I could spend hours just here showing you things, but, we want to make sure that this is manageable for you and I. So thank you so much for joining us again tonight. All right, episode 28 of Innovative EdTech is coming up on September 7th, 2026 at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so this one is a new tool that I discovered on a Facebook group that I'm part of. And I thought I want to be one of the first people to explore this and show this. So I hope I'm getting this name correct. I think it's Giga Quizzes. And this is a fantastic free alternative to Kahoot, right? So if you've used Kahoot before, you'll know what it's like. We're going to go and have a look at Giga Quizzes and see how this particular tool could also become a really good tool in your toolkit and another one of your EdTech best friends. So come and join me on September 7th for Giga Quizzes, the free alternative to Kahoot. Well, that wraps us up for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 27 of Innovative EdTech. It's been lovely having you here. If you've joined us live, if you're joining us on the recording, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Tristan Heron. Thank you so much for joining us again. And until next time, everybody, stay safe.